Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first episode of our Westworld miniseries podcast. I am your host, Carmine of Red Team Review, and I'm joined here once again by the man who goes into a public bathroom, sees all the empty urinals, but still chooses to use the one next to yours, Preston Jacobs. Preston.
Wow. No, I'm that guy. I like if there's 10, I'll go right up to and I'll start talking to the person. Right now, no. God, what person would do that? And you said like once again, this is our first Westworld one. First Westworld
Preston,
podcast.
You shut up. Guys, welcome to the first episode of our Westworld podcast miniseries, and today we'll be discussing Westworld Season 2, episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we'll even discuss a little bit of Season 1. As always, we're available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play, so consider checking us out on those platforms, and if you do check us out on iTunes, then please leave us a review. It'll help out a lot. For those of you who follow us for the Game of Thrones podcast, don't worry, we still have content for you in regards to that fairly soon, but in the meantime, do check out our official Game of Thrones podcast YouTube channel to binge watch the hell out of all our episodes and after shows.
All right, Westworld. We'll have at least seven listeners to our Westworld podcast.
People love Westworld. You stop that. People actually do like Westworld.
I get so many messages of please stop talking about Westworld. The thing is, I really love Westworld. I think it's so fun to watch. It's so fun to watch. I mean, it's a mess, but it's so fun to watch.
It's a mess. How so? What's messy about it?
I mean, it's all right. This is my general thing about Westworld. And actually, like anything by Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan, like the brothers are very similar. Like you watch it and it's really, it's kind of complex, and so it doesn't make sense at first. So then you watch it again and you pay closer attention and it begins to make more sense. And then you start paying really close attention and it stops making sense again. And this goes for like all Chris Nolan movies and Westworld in general. Like, if you pay close attention, it makes sense. If you pay too close attention, it stops making sense. So, you don't want to, if you really want to enjoy Westworld, don't watch it as closely as I do, because
you can't use you can't use that observation you use for Song of Ice and Fire here, right? Because it throws you off.
Right. I mean, people say I do it too much for Ice and Fire as well. They're like, come on, that's just George R. R. Martin messing up. That's not a conspiracy.
They're messing up. By the way, for those of you guys wondering if I sound a little off, it's because I have allergies, so please don't mind that too much. But I wasn't around for Season 1 of Westworld. Can we talk about that for a little bit?
Sure.
Season 1 of Westworld, you said something to me privately about how...
I had to harass Carmine to watch Westworld.
I'm not the average millennial. Everybody I know who's my age... By the way, I'm 27. Am I 27? No, I'm 26. My bad, I'm sorry. Shut up. Everybody who's my age...
Maybe you're just in a loop. Maybe you actually are like 42.
I'm sorry,
but
Preston.
You've just been in a loop.
It doesn't sound like anything to me. No, everybody my age loves to binge watch. I just can't. I gotta get up. I remember going in the theater with a friend of mine watching the new Avengers. I had to get up a little bit and just walk around. I just can't sit still. I don't know. I just can't sit down for a minute and just watch this. I gotta get up and do stuff. But, yes.
No, I mean, what's so fun about Westworld is actually not the binge watching. What's fun about Westworld is watching it
with everyone,
watching an episode, and then spending the week like chatting with your friends or going on Reddit and like checking out theories, and then getting the next episode. Like binge watching is actually not the great part about Westworld. The great part about Westworld is like watching it on the week to week like basis. That is so much fun.
Is the Westworld subreddit nicer than the Game of Thrones one?
No. No, it's the internet. Come on. People No, absolutely not. It's different though. It's more unified in the sense that they think of themselves as a cohesive group. Like, we are the Reddit, and we're discovering things. And the showrunners pay attention to the Reddit, while George R. R. Martin doesn't give a fuck about And Dan and Dave don't give a fuck about like Ice and Fire Reddit.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, do you think?
I think it's a good thing because they say they've actually been going on and if the Reddit guesses it too quickly, like going back and being like, fuck, we need to make this a little more complicated, which lends itself to a more intricate plot, so, and the Reddit's really great because people do catch things that a normal person wouldn't catch. I mean, and there's some really like crazy stuff. Like they released the Super Bowl trailer and it had like binary code, and people could go take the binary code and put it in a web browser and then go to like this website and find all these Easter eggs. And you're like, oh my God, like, no, like, I don't know. Like sometimes it's just like, cannot believe, somebody found that.
Well, I mean, this is the internet we're talking about. Remember, we were talking about this before, privately. Remember how Shia LaBeouf did that one thing after Trump won, "He will not divide us," and they had to remove the camera from New York City because so many people fuck with it. So Shia LaBeouf had this thing about he will not divide us flag somewhere. So 4chan came in and like, studied like the location of where the birds were fucking flying around, the clouds, the wind, the airplanes, and they triangulated where this flag was, sent someone out there to take it down. The internet will discover everything within time.
Oh, absolutely. Oh man, I for work I had to go to a fraud conference, and like the things that investigators can do like when you take a picture, like in that picture. Like when you take a picture with a camera today, modern cameras, they all have GPS locations in your photo. So if you post a photo online, everyone knows like where, like it doesn't matter if the photo doesn't even have like landmarks in it. Like people know where it is, where and when it is. Like you're done. Like you can never really commit a crime ever again. But we were talking about Westworld.
Right, I'm sorry. But season 1, I wasn't here for season 1. Season 1, you told me privately that you think that there was a different writer come in halfway through the show.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think... I don't know if it's a different writer, but there was definitely a shift in all of the plots that happened pretty strikingly in the middle of the season. Like kind of at the 30% mark of the season, like where the Man in Black suddenly stops like being on a riddle quest and starts following Wyatt, and all of a sudden, let's see, Dolores, I guess Dolores like leaves maybe in episode 2, but I'm trying to think, like Maeve suddenly switches, like they drop the show drops the Violent Delights plot. And Maeve goes on her escape plan instead, and there's a lot of different shifts in what happens.
I liked Westworld season 1, but it's one of those things where, like, I love Game of Thrones season 1, and I'll go back and watch Game of Thrones season 1 anytime and still enjoy it. But Westworld season 1, I just can't go back and watch it again. It's one of those things where I watch it this one time, I remember the key things that happened, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I was also talking to you about this, and I hate saying this because it makes me sound like such a douchey, like, social justice warrior. But Westworld, and you do notice it, Westworld does make all the female characters into just bitchy women. Like, I don't know, maybe that's because there's a problem with me as a man who thinks every strong woman is bitchy, but every female in power has like this like, yeah, fuck you attitude to them. Like Hale, Elsie, Bernard's girlfriend, I forgot her name, that he kills in season 1. All of them do. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Because I had a problem with that.
I mean, see, I don't know. So I, it's the internet, and I do see these comments. Like everybody's like, oh my God, why is Westworld so female empowerment? Kind of thing. And yeah, that's definitely a theme. I guess, I mean, I don't have too much of a problem with it. They are trying definitely to make Charlotte into that. And they tried to do it with Teresa. But, why do they come across, abrasive? But, like, everybody seems to like Elsie.
Elsie's got spunk. I can see why.
Well, I mean, I think Elsie appeals to people because she's the audience. Everybody else like has a weird personality, and is Elsie is kind of like, oh my god, this is screwed up. I need to figure out what's going on. All of these people need to go down, and so Elsie I think appeals to people. First season Lee, it was very appealing because he was just so ridiculous and funny.
Yeah.
Second season, I'm not as connected to Lee because that first episode where there's 1,000 dead bodies everywhere and he's just kind of cavalier about everyone being dead, was a little odd. But I don't know. The idea of are they bitchy or
you told me
is
it's because the writers don't know how to write females.
Well, I mean, but there is a female writer, so I don't know if being bitchy is a thing. Like, it's hard to divorce like sexism from whether or not they're actually like supposed to come off as a negative character. Mm-hmm. It's tough. Like we are sexist, and so when we see a strong female character, there is this notion, this tendency for people to go, oh, that's a bitch,
it is something I've noticed, and they do go out of their way. Like Hale almost seems like a stereotypical like bad guy. Like
well, Hale is outrageously evil. I mean, Charlotte's outrageously evil, but I think a better example is Teresa, who is actually not a bad person, and gets murdered, and you feel they gave her a lot of depth. And so the question is, does Teresa to come off that way?
She's the least one that comes off that way.
I mean, and certainly the characters use that word, and perhaps she's supposed to be the hard boss, but then they do show her have these incredible scenes with Teresa first season where they show her soft side and her insecure side. When she's with Bernard and such, and she opens up, and it's too bad that they killed the Teresa character off. So I don't know what they were going with that, and would we use the same words or ideas for a male character? Ford is a complete bastard, an absolute bastard.
But because of that accent, though, we have to let it go. I mean, I pester Preston with this all the time.
Would people say, "Oh, he's a bitch"? I mean, like there's a scene where Ford just walks over to this guy I went to college with and like rips like rips the towel off the naked host and like cuts him up, And
that was a douchey move.
And yeah, well, that's the thing, is you use the word douchey with him, but if it was a woman, you'd use the word bitchy, but it's the same thing, So it's like we're getting into discussion of like sexist language. And
you're right.
All of a sudden I'm gonna look like a social justice warrior.
It's just something I've noticed. Like a lot of the female characters in season 1 came off as very bitchy to me. I don't know if it was on purpose, but Elsie, you have a point about Elsie. Like she is the audience essentially. The one thing I hated about season 1 was there was also this kind of subplot about maybe a rival company, someone working for a rival company and smuggling info out of like the park. Is that gonna come back, or are we done with that?
Well, I think that kind of evolved into the Abernathy plot. So Teresa was originally trying to upload information out of the park, and then when that failed, Charlotte went and downloaded it into Abernathy, and then this season they kind of made that data into human hosts.
Gotcha. Because
I mean, it's all retroactive. I mean, it's not like when they wrote that Teresa Stray, like the plot of the Stray. They were really thinking about Teresa smuggling out, human consciousness programs or whatever. But that was the transition there. Yeah, that originally the plan was to try to upload it to a satellite link.
As for like Maeve in season 1, she was my least favorite subplot. Like Maeve, Felix, and the ginger guy, I just wasn't feeling it. And Felix was way too naive for a normal human being to be that naive. It just was almost unbelievable. and kind of annoying at the same time.
So Felix, I think a lot of people had problems with Felix and Sylvester. Felix mainly, Sylvester to a little lesser degree. Felix is ridiculous character because he has a big enough heart that he wants to save Maeve, but at the same time, he allows Maeve to murder people, including his friends, like his coworkers, who in Livestock she freaking murders. Like, he's so ridiculously naive, and shifting around in his mentality. Like at the end where he gives her the slip and he's like, oh, I found your daughter, and she's like, oh, you're a horrible person, and in the elevator, and they're having this heartwarming scene. She just murdered your coworkers. There was nothing, like Destin and the other guy. Destin is the guy who was having sex with Hector, or who wanted to have sex with Hector, and I don't know who the other guy's name was. There's nothing wrong with those guys. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't know that any of the hosts were conscious.
So it's okay if the hosts aren't conscious.
Well, they didn't know.
But let me ask you that: is it okay though? Because this is something I actually want to talk to you about towards the end of the episode. Is it okay if they're just not sentient? If they're just androids?
I mean, then it's just like having sex with one of those blow-up dolls. Right?
I would know, but okay.
I mean, I've never had sex with a blow-up doll.
I didn't imply you did. I'm just saying. But don't you feel bad because blow-up dolls have like that stupid fucking balloon face? But this
Right.
android has like feelings, I guess, and a pretty face, and those eyes. You just kind of like feel bad for it, like a little dog.
I mean,
you just kind of feel bad for it.
I guess, but it is. I mean, it is just fantasy. What's odd? We're really all over the map, but I do have to say Westworld. No, it's fine. But like Westworld does kind of make a very strange, like, it is bringing up a very strange moral message where these people that are treating hosts badly are considered villains.
Mm-hmm.
Villains enough that they deserve to die, even though they didn't know that they were conscious. It's like the little kid at the end of Toy Story. He didn't know that toys had feelings, or else maybe he wouldn't be doing all of that stuff. So like it's weird to punish these people for crimes they didn't know they were committing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the analogy I make is like, if you knew your toilet could taste, would you shit in it? And it's like, well, if I knew my toilet could taste, maybe I wouldn't do that. But I don't know that. My toilet is an inanimate like object. I'm allowed to shit in it, right? It's the same with these droids. Like, they're not conscious, so it's okay to fuck them. Like, it's just it's masturbation, right? And yet they're like, oh, actually, these people deserve to die. Mm. And then some people say, well, maybe because, maybe they deserve to die because it's simulating these bad things. And therefore, if you're into these bad things in a fantasy sense, then you're an evil person, kind of very New Testament. Like if you're sinning in your heart, it's just as bad as regular sin.
That's a discussion piece we'll get into. But get back to Felix.
Okay. Felix. Yeah, well, Felix is just all over the map. Where he's supposed to be this good person, and I think they're trying to make him somebody that the audience could relate to, but he's not. He's so naive.
It's fucking stupid. I hate that kid. Oh my god, worst character.
Right, like Maeve is a villain, and he is so naive. I mean, season 2, Maeve is suddenly a hero, but like in season 1, Maeve is a freaking villain, and Felix is just an idiot, and Sylvester is a little less of an idiot, but still an idiot.
Why do they give everybody, like... The one thing I'm curious about, because Westworld Season 1, we're still on that for a little bit. We're about to get off in a minute. Westworld Season 1, I'm just curious, why do they give everybody and their moms, like, these little, like, portable iPad things that can control, like, their... Like, I understand controlling their personality, make someone cruel or whatever. Why increase their intelligence or decrease it? Why increase... Because it feels like Maeve increased like all these attributes about her that she shouldn't have that shouldn't be an option.
Right.
Like, I feel like she has like superhuman strength now. Do they all have superhuman strength now?
No, Maeve gave it to her. I think she gave it to Hector. I mean, everything with Maeve is supposed to make sense because it was all a plan and program from the beginning. Like, I mean, a lot of people still insist that Felix and Sylvester must be hosts because no one would be that stupid.
Oh, that's a good theory. I like that theory. But like, how the fuck is like, if you're gonna make a park with a bunch of androids, I understand like compassion, cruelty, all that stuff. Why would you put in for attributes changing ability option? Why would you put in like strength and like endurance and shit like that? Like that's come on, really?
I mean, it's true that it's a little weird, but then again, you know, why do our cars go 150 miles an hour when the speed limit's, you know, 65? Like,
okay. All right, you got me there.
You know,
all
like,
right.
But I mean, they for some reason built these droids with all these like crazy abilities when they shouldn't have. But some people would say, oh, Ford planned it all, and therefore he like wanted this rebellion, and therefore he built these droids that way.
Right, Ford. That doesn't make any sense as well, because during the flashbacks, Bernard was like, oh, these guys are sentient. Bernard, stop it. They're not sent. Bernard.
No, she said Bernard.
I pester.
Maeve calls him
I pester
Bernard.
Preston all the time with Bernard. Hello, Bernard. Bernard.
It's
hello.
Bernard.
I love that. Who's that? Anthony Hopkins, right?
Oh no, Anthony! I thought you were doing Maeve.
No,
I thought you were doing
Maeve.
a Maeve impression. And Maeve calls him Bernard.
Bernard.
While everybody else calls him Bernard.
I love Anthony Hopkins when he says Bernard. Hello, Bernard. Hello, Bernard. I love him. I love him.
No, I think Anthony Hopkins is hilarious as well because he's so phoning it in. He's just like phoning it in season one. I mean, he's an incredible actor, but it's very clear that like no one told him the lines, and so like he says a line and then he like pauses halfway through and then says the second half of the line. He'd be like, I think we've done enough for today. You're like, oh god.
Oh man, so
he's so
what happened with
phoning it
him?
in.
Like he wasn't all up on. He wasn't like he wasn't in agreement with Bernard on the whole like them being sentient thing, and all of a sudden he's cool with it.
Oh, with Arnold?
Yeah.
I mean, he says eventually that he realized he was wrong late in the game, like, and I'm not sure when, but you know, obviously. But
why
after,
though? Like, what made him change his mind? Has that been secretly revealed? Because I feel like a lot of things in Westworld are all secretly in your face, and just only later do people go back and realize it. Because I was talking to a friend of mine, and she immediately guessed Bernard was an android in like the first 2 episodes. It took me like at least till episode 4 to be like, oh shit, is he an android? What the fuck?
Huh. How, I wonder how she guessed that.
I don't know, like, but you know me, I'm good at guessing stuff like this. How long did it take you to guess till Bernard was an android? Because it's revealed in episode 7.
It's tough. It's tough because my experience was reading internet theories at the same time, so it was really tough for me to say like what I felt. I know that originally when you watch and you're not supposed to know the difference between Arnold and Bernard, and all of a sudden Bernard is like off talking to Ford, and then he's in the basement with Dolores, and then Dolores is in the field, and then Bernard, like, very quickly, very early on, it was apparent that there was many timelines, you know, that things were not happening, you know, in the same time.
You know, it's funny.
I
actually, watching it, I didn't realize that until like the very end, that there were multiple timelines. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I just didn't. The one thing that gave it away for me, though, that gave me a hint that there were multiple timelines is, at one point, I think it was Logan who does this to Dolores, where I think he opens up, I think her stomach or something, and we see all the wires.
She's got gears.
Yeah. And then later on, we see that the hosts actually are more intricate than just wires. But they have like blood, not guts, but like, you know, blood and like flesh and a little bit of like, you know, like whatever is in between, and they're more sophisticated now than just being guts and wires, bolts and wires.
Yeah, and even the Man in Black even tells us fairly early on that like the hosts are supposed to be flesh and blood now, and so when you see Dolores, it's pretty big confirmation, but that there's more than one timeline. But Logan doesn't open Dolores up until like episode 9, so it's but I think very early on, because of the Bernard Arnold scenes, like I knew that there was clearly different timelines. And so I think I probably realized on my own that there was multiple timelines. I think I must have looked online to figure out that Bernard was Arnold and Arnold was Bernard. I actually
fucked myself towards episode 9 because someone said something about the Man in Black while he was one of the other guests come and join the Man in Black. And one of them say, "Your company really helped me," and then he stops him and goes, "I'm on fucking vacation." And I was kind of curious, like, who is this guy? Like, I want to find out more about his backstory. So I went online and to the Westworld Wikipedia, and I fucked myself because there's a one part
immediately gives away that he's William.
It says Man in Black, and then there's a tab that says Young William. Like, Young William, who the fuck? Oh, what? No. Great twist though. That was a fucking fantastic twist. Holy shit, great twist.
But that's the fun thing. So now it's like it's tough because so many people were making guesses and everything on everything. So quite quickly, like once I heard the theory that William was the Man in Black, like I instantly was like, yeah, no, that's totally the case. Like it was pretty. I didn't come up with it, I didn't figure it out on my own. But the minute I heard it, I was like, yeah, it's too perfect. Fits perfectly. And so at that point, it was done. I guess it was tough. It's tough with all the theories going around. I think the only thing I perhaps got on my own was just getting the sense that there were multiple timelines, and that Logan and William were in the past, because it was when you watch those early episodes, like the timeline is just completely off with Logan and William, it being nighttime and then it being daytime somewhere else and things like that, and trying to figure out like the timeline.
Well, to me,
you'll see like a full day pass.
To me, I will say they did a really good job of making sure the timelines stayed a little hidden. I'll give you an example. At one point, the Man in Black and Lawrence, who, by the way, is my favorite android. I love Lawrence. But Lawrence, at one point, gets all the blood, like, just, like, drained out of him to put into Teddy.
Yeah.
So right. As we all know,
that magical scene. Like, how did he do that? We have no clue.
But as we all know, whenever a host dies, the team comes in, picks him up, and puts him back in their role. So as soon as Lawrence died, old timeline, Logan and young William arrive in Pariah, and they see Lawrence there. So I'm like, oh, so Man in Black killed him. So the parked people just put Lawrence back in his role. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that was done really well. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right, because I think I'm trying to think, that's a pretty early on, so...
All right, we're talking about season 1 way too much. Season 1 was okay. I actually did like it, but it's something I never would watch again. Like, maybe I would have it as a Blu-ray, just to have it, but I probably wouldn't go back and watch it again. I didn't like Maeve that much. Dolores is so pretty. I love her. She's adorable. Mwah! I love Dolores. But
you love the blondes.
Stop it. Let's talk about season 2. Season 2, episode 1. Remind us what happened.
Season 2, episode 1.
Remind us what happened.
Bernard wakes up on a beach. He's with Carl Strand. And then he begins flashing back to about 2 weeks. They figure out we're about 2 weeks after the incident. When I say the incident, I mean shooting Ford in the head, and the robot rebellion. So that we then flash back to just after the incident. So as I say, the Carl Strand timeline takes place about 2 weeks after the incident. We flash back to Bernard just after the incident, hiding with Charlotte. He and Charlotte go out to try to find an outpost or an access elevator, and end up going to end up finding a secret facility where Bernard begins to discover Delos's other nefarious plans. Dolores goes around killing people, and in the countryside, and Maeve runs into Lee, and they team up, and they decide they find Hector, and they decide to go get Maeve's daughter. And I'm trying to think anything else. Anything else happen in that?
The androids washed up on the beach for some reason. Were those androids or those people? Androids, right?
At the very end, where he finds the lake, at the very end, they flash back to the Carl Strand timeline, and Bernard, the lake is filled with androids, filled with hosts.
So you saying season 2 also has 2 timelines?
At least. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about these 2 timelines.
Episode 1, we have 2 timelines. We have 2 weeks. We have the contemporary timeline is the Carl Strand timeline. Then when I say Carl Strand, he's Skarsgård, the guy from Vikings, character. He and Stubbs arrive, and they find Bernard on a beach. That's the furthest we have. And then and they're trying to figure out what happened. And then Bernard flashes back to just after the incident.
So the flashbacks you're telling me are coming from Bernard, because later on in another episode I just saw, we're seeing Bernard is having like memory issues, like he's moving in and out of memories.
Right, and so one of the things they're playing with near the end of season 1, Bernard shoots himself in the head, and then Felix kind of fixes him, and this is actually one of those. It's funny because it's one of those like fan error things that they then kind of decide, you know what, let's fix this, because after Bernard shoots himself in the head, Felix fixes him, and then it seems like Bernard is just fine. But then this season they're like, okay, it was a little stupid for us to have him just be fine. So he's actually done major he's actually done major damage to his head with the gunshot, and so he's his memory is all screwing up, and so this is why he can't really figure out what time it is and why he keeps flashing back. But yes, there's definitely 2 timelines. There's 2 weeks after the incident, and there's just after the incident.
Your thoughts on episode 1? I thought it was a little too, I don't want to say chaotic, but it was really all over the place for me. I get it. It's supposed to do that, but at the same time, I thought season 2, episode 1 will take off minutes after Dolores shoots Ford.
I liked episode 1. I like the 2 timelines. I like how there's all sorts of mysteries going on. I mean, I'm completely clueless on what's going on with the Carl Strand timeline. Like, how did, and there's all sorts of mysteries. How did Stubbs get to where he is? Why is Bernard on that beach? Is it Bernard? Why are all the hosts dead? Why is there this flood? I mean, these are all mysteries where I'm just like, I'm clueless, and I want to keep watching to figure out why. I was expecting it to be really boring, like it's just to be a big battle, a big rumble, but it's more than that. They're adding a lot of like intriguing mysteries. So like I think it's very clever that there's again 2 timelines, and it's funny because they keep saying that like, oh, we're not sure when these various scenes take place, and right now it seems like I know when everything takes place, but I'm waiting for some twist to be like, actually, this is taking place not 2 weeks later, but a year later or something like that. I'm waiting for a big twist like that with some of these scenes that like when I think they're happening aren't happening, because they've actually been giving a lot of clues on when scenes are happening, and I'm waiting for like actually all of those clues were wrong, and these scenes are actually years or months or something. Well,
like I said, episode 1 wasn't my cup of tea. But as I continued on, and I understand it a little bit better now, but it's I don't know. Episode 1 gave me the vibe that this is becoming a lot like iRobot. Have you ever seen Will Smith's iRobot movie?
Yeah.
It's becoming a lot like that, and the whole, like, I think, I forgot who it was, if it was, like, Game of Thrones Academy guys, but they put something in their video title, like, Empire versus Rebels, because it's really starting to feel like that. Dolores' Rebels versus Delos' Empire, like, it's giving me that kind of feel, and I don't know if that's what I'm really into.
Well, it could have been something that simple. Like, at the end of season 1, Ford just kind of says, oh, people are evil and hosts are the future, and that's it. And it's kind of a dark ending. Like, humans are hopeless and fuck you guys. I'm dead. Hosts are going to take over. Seacrest out. But like this new season, it's a little different. I mean, it's weird that all of a sudden they've made Dolores into straight up villain, and they've made all of a sudden Maeve into they've softened up Maeve quite a bit, and that we still have humans and to root for, like bringing back Elsie and things like that.
It's funny, like Maeve is getting more of an interesting storyline this season, and I still find her a little boring. Like, she hasn't really done much. She's kind of just
wandered, right?
Yeah, she's just walking around. But episode 1, you liked it. I wasn't too much of a big fan. Episode 2, I also wasn't a fan of, because all it really does is double down like on Dolores' storyline, which is fine. But it also shows us young William being a douche. He went straight up evil after the whole thing. And I think, was it episode 2 that introduces the character of the actual man, Delos?
Yes, it introduces Logan's dad, yeah. James Delos. So it introduces him. Episode 2 is intriguing because they do so much history, some fascinating, like, they're covering, almost 30 years of William's life and Logan's life and James Delos' life and everything that happens in that time, in that time period. And, I think people love Logan. Like I would say the fan favorites are freaking Logan and Elsie. And I think I know the reason is that both are similar in that both are actually acting like how real people would act. Like, if a real person were put in Westworld, they would act like Logan.
Pretty much.
Like, right? They would fucking kill everything they see, because that's what we do in video games, right? Why not? Like,
I mean, I guess.
Yeah. And so when you get Logan, like, Logan's this fun character who's actually, like, it's funny that they try to portray him as this villain, but, like, he's us. Like, why wouldn't you go into Westworld and, like, have sex with beautiful women and, like, have fun in the Old West and shoot stuff around?
Some people would be young William. Some people wouldn't go to Westworld and just kill and fuck and, do all this stuff. Some people actually want to go to Westworld and, like, marvel at it and maybe do a couple of adventures here and there. And I get it. I get why they're trying to show. You know what? You're striking on a point here. Like, they're trying to show certain people as bad guys who aren't really bad guys.
Right. I mean, that's what's. I mean, it's intriguing. I feel on the one hand sometimes annoyed by it, but on the other hand, it's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, I like it.
Like that. I really like Logan, but they try to make him into a villain first season. But I never found anything villainous about him. Like,
he just wanted to have fun. I get it.
He just wanted to have fun, and like he actually liked his brother. He actually liked William. He liked his brother-in-law. Like, he just wanted his brother-in-law to get out of his shell. And then when he did come out of his shell, it was a bad idea, and you feel bad for Logan. Like, I guess, I mean, I like Teddy, though Teddy is boring. Like, all the So this is what's funny is everybody keeps saying, oh, Westworld, the hosts are so real and lifelike. Almost every host acts like a freaking host. They're only in, yeah, they're one dimensional. They're honestly like 3 steps ahead of old Bill. Like, they're only 3 steps ahead of like being animatronic.
Yeah.
Because they're all such simple stereotypes, right? And so it's weird to actually have a situation like that where the humans are the most interesting characters because they're human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Lee, Elsie, Logan are characters, and they're great. Even Ford, like they're characters. And then the hosts are all boring stereotypes, like Dolores, Teddy, Maeve. You know, Maeve becomes more interesting over time, but you know, I was almost expecting, you know, to have that switched around and have these hosts be more human than human. But they're not. The hosts are actually hosts. They're actually androids who act like androids, which is funny that's kind of turning things on its head.
Well, the reason I like Lawrence so much is because he's the perfect sidekick to the Man in Black. He really is.
Lawrence is actually one of the few hosts that's interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the few hosts that's like likable and fun. You know?
Even when we saw him with young William and Logan, like he's just really, I don't know. I just really like his personality. Whereas, like you hit it on the head. Teddy is really kind of meh.
Yeah, it's just boring.
But episode 2,
you know?
like it really just serves to move the plot forward. It really just serves to, like, you know, show us what's happening. There is one scene though. I'm looking at it here. It's called on my end. It's called William's business proposal. Where William is trying to convince Delos to, you know, put his money in this. And he says something along the lines of, this is a place where people can sin, and no one's really watching, but we're watching. So it leads me to believe that he wants to use it as also a means to blackmail some people.
That was definitely the implication that we were gonna record the experiences for blackmail. But later we get the twist that actually they're recording the experiences to somehow build somebody's consciousness, which seems off. I mean, you'd think that like to take your consciousness, they'd have to like bring you in to like copy your brain rather than record you from the outside and figure out all of your.
Well, we're
your
getting ahead of
behavior.
ourselves a little.
Yeah,
but episode 2, we also get the Man in Black trying to recruit his own army, and William becomes an asshole. The Man in Black, why is he trying to recruit his own army? What's behind that?
Well, all of a sudden now he says he wants to burn the park to the ground or something. So he has some sort of weapon, right? At the end of episode 2, we find out that he has some sort of weapon in the Valley Beyond. We see him with the terraforming machines. So he has something. He's trying to get there, but we aren't really sure what that thing is. Like why Dolores calls it a weapon. What you know, it's the big mystery. Is it centered around, is it the area where it's been flooded? I mean, if that's all the same area, like the weapon, the Valley Beyond, and then the Valley Beyond gets flooded into a lake, then maybe we're all talking about the same thing. Maybe it's all in the same location.
Right.
But yeah, that's the big mystery.
I'm thinking, and maybe I'm a little too like maybe a little too straightforward with this one. Maybe I'm not thinking outside the box enough. I'm thinking maybe it's an EMP device, or maybe it's the mainframe, like the central computer where it controls everything in the park. Because remember, there is like something in the park that controls almost every action. Like I remember in season 1 where the Man in Black is trying to escape from jail and he's trying to light some kind of like dynamite or something. And it centers back to the control room where they're like, hey, someone's trying to activate this explosion. And the guy's like, yep, let him do it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, but it would have to also be something that Dolores would want to be able to use against the rest of the world. Well, like could maybe it is like an electromagnetic pulse that, and then if she could somehow pulse the rest of the world, destroying the rest of the world and all of their electronics while the hosts survive. I mean, if she could somehow invert it, you know.
Well, the whole theme of, if you go on Wikipedia and you look at Westworld, the whole theme of the whole thing about behind season 1 is the maze. For season 2, it's the door. So this could be the door. My thoughts is that this is the main central computer, and that it can do one of two things. It can shut them all down or free them. Because Dolores, I think, is the only one who... Her and Maeve are the only ones who are free, right? Everybody else is still playing their roles.
I mean, that's the thing, is it's all arguable. The only person we are 100% sure is free is Maeve. We're pretty sure Teddy is free because he's been, like, getting those flashbacks and like, breaking free and, like, choosing to do different things. Mm-hmm. And we're pretty sure that Dolores is kind of free. Some other people, Abernathy was getting that. Walter, I guess everybody in the basement. Little Ford was on his way to consciousness before he gets shot in the face, which is straight up murder, by the way. Like the Man in Black straight up murdered a little boy. Like there's no excuse now, because before it was like, well, you guys can be reborn and nothing matters, and like, you know, we didn't know you were conscious, and but now it all matters, and he shot a little boy in the face. So
episode 3, we finally get like a little showdown between Dolores' group and the commandos sent to take him down.
Yeah, the Confederados, yeah.
And it didn't work out so well. And we also get a brand new character, this woman, who shows us another side to, I guess, the park. Is this all on one big island, or...?
I think that's the implication. So in the first episode, we find Carl Strand is talking to a Chinese military personnel. And so the idea is that Westworld is on an island somewhere in the South China Sea. And this is the joke, you know, they're playing off of the fact that, like, China builds man-made islands in the middle of the South China Sea in order to, like, claim the water routes, sea routes. And so the idea is that maybe Westworld is on a man-made island in the South China Sea.
But this episode gave us the implication that there are, like, different worlds, because we kind of got that in season 1 as Maeve is walking around through the complex with Felix. We see samurais fighting each other and shit.
Yes.
So in this episode we get what, India world, I guess.
Well, yeah, Raj world.
Is that what you call it, Raj?
Yeah, no, yeah, Raj, R-A-J, Raj world. Very useful word for Scrabble. And you know, we have Shogun world.
Shogun world.
So on the online, if you go to, like, the Delos destination site, you know, it says there's 6 parks.
Ooh.
So we now know we now know the identity of 3 of them.
What is it? Delos destination? Let me look this up real quick. Ooh, this is a thing. I didn't know this is a thing. How's this a thing?
Yeah. Yeah, no, when I was telling you about that binary code, like, it's the one that, like, brings you to that site. Yeah.
Experience our worlds. Ooh. Yeah. Westworld. We got Westworld. What we got here? We got Shogun World. Oh, that's why you were saying Shogun World. Okay.
Yeah.
This is, what the fuck? Authorized personnel. God damn it.
And we also, like, you see SW on the wall in season 1. So it was either Samurai World or Shogun World.
There are 3 of them that are blanked out. So Park 3, 4, and 5 are either Roman World, Medieval World. Oh, I would love if Game of Thrones turned out to actually be like... and that'd be a nice twist. That'd be a nice twist to, like, you know, bridge everything together.
Yeah.
So Park 3, 4, and 5 are blanked out. I'm assuming we have Roman World, Medieval World, and there's one more world. Because Shogun World and the Raj were never in the original Westworld movie, or the movie franchise.
Right. So you're thinking Medieval World and
Roman World.
And Roman World are the other ones.
It has to be one more.
Possible.
Probably, maybe... I don't know. They have to
Futureworld.
Futureworld. Good shit. Good thinking. But okay, episode 3, we're introduced to a brand new character. She's in the Raj, and she's, I guess, hunting tigers. Which, by the way, like
the second I saw her, I was like, oh, Man in Black's daughter.
Yeah, what the fuck?
That was like the second.
That took me by surprise. How did you know?
Oh, that took you by... Oh.
That took me by surprise. Get out of here. Come on.
No, because they mentioned because they in episode 2 they spent so much time showing Emily, the little girl, that I was just like, oh no, she's definitely gonna make an appearance. I mean, what would have like been a twist, is if she goes up and rather than saying hello dad, she goes hello uncle. Like then she'd be like, Logan's daughter. Then I would have been like,
yeah.
that would have been more interesting, right?
I mean, even if she was his, if he was her dad or uncle, she'd still hate him regardless because I mean, we also find out, not yet, but in episode 4, but I'll mention it here because we were talking about him. We find out Logan's fate, and apparently he overdoses. He becomes a junkie.
Yeah, we see him being a junkie in episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we hear that he, overdoses. Now, that said, we know that we're going to have at least a couple more Logan scenes before the end of the season because we saw them in the previews.
Right.
One scene shows Logan standing by the pool talking as his father walks away. So that seems to be happening sometime before James Delos goes into his program loop.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other scene is they see there seems to be a scene of him naked next to a tree getting saved by a Keichita, perhaps after, during at the end of he and William's visit to the park 30 years ago. So, I mean, nothing, I guess nothing contradicts the idea that he overdoses or dies of an overdose. I think the implication is that he's dead. I mean, you don't necessarily have to die from an overdose, but that's the implication, is that he's dead.
And young William, or William in general, could have been just lying about it. I mean, to save James.
He could have been lying. Yeah, he could have been lying.
But in episode 3, we see
or maybe Logan faked his death. There's a lot of different possibilities.
In episode 3, we see that this new character. We actually finally get to the edge of the park because that's been something from season 1 I was really curious about. What happens when you reach the edge of the park?
What happens when you reach the edge of the park? The answer is you just go into another park.
I like how there's
nothing at the end of the park.
I'm assuming the little red lasers aren't meant to like stop people, but stop the hosts. Maybe, I don't know, if they venture too far, they blow up or something.
Right. That's a good notion. Yeah, that's a good idea. But of course it did nothing to the tiger
because everything is off. But I do like her character. I can see why she'll be related to the Man in Black, because they're both really heavily into the park and they know so much. I like her character a little. She knows so much about the park to the point where she can speak the fucking language of the goddamn, the Native American guys.
Yeah. Some people assume that it's Lakota, because I think in some of which is weird because, so the Lakota language was actually a very dying language. But then for Dances with Wolves, like, people came in and they did all this research and, like, wrote everything down and really cataloged the Lakota language. So now, of all the American Indian languages, Lakota is one of the ones that's rather accessible because of Dances with Wolves. But for some reason in the subtitles it says Lakota language speaking. I don't have the ear to recognize whether it's actually Lakota or not. Mm-hmm. But it's the Ghost Nation language that she somehow is able to speak because she's been coming here enough, which I guess makes sense. So first season, the Man in Black would say, "I've been coming here 30 years," and at the time the implication was, oh, he's taking an annual vacation every year or something. But now that we find out that he's been coming to the park all the time to check on Jim Delos, he must be going to the park like 3-4 times a year. I'm assuming more because he knows way too much. Right, but also, like, in order to have 149 James Deloses, I mean, maybe not all of them get to the William interview stage, mm-hmm. but if we're talking like 20
Well,
years.
we're getting into episode 4,
yeah.
but let me know what are your thoughts on episode 3? Did you enjoy it? Did you?
So episode 3 of the season, it was my least favorite.
Really,
and
I actually liked it a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's just that I thought the Dolores' battle with the Confederados against the humans was just a little silly. Like, why would the humans send all of their people in, like, all at once and get blown up?
I guess they're still underestimating the androids.
I guess. It's
because they're not aware of like who's free
me.
and who's not. I doubt they think they probably still think that this is just a major malfunction and that most of the hosts are just following their like protocols and they
I'm trying to think what else happened in the episode. I mean, okay, so let me remember. We had
I'll tell you right now. It's basically
Bernard ran into Rebus and we had that funny scene where he reprograms Rebus to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stephen Ogg.
And then yeah, that was funny. And Dolores like, teams up with the Confederados and then has that battle. And then we get a lot of like Dolores with her dad moments, right? Yeah. Anything else?
Lee, Maeve, and Hector, they're just wandering around.
Oh, right, wandering the tunnels. Yeah, and running into Armistice and Felix and Sylvester.
Nothing much did happen, but what did happen was actually very telling. Like what you said about Teddy, how you think he's kind of free and he's just doing his own thing. Like Dolores tells him to wipe out the remaining Confederados. He lets him go. I'm thinking maybe that he's the one that's going to kill Dolores in the end because he can't stand what she's become.
I mean, they're definitely setting up Teddy to be some sort of like hero to rebel against Dolores. That's certainly where it seems to be going. We see a lot of regret in his face, but then again, we also see him dead. So by floating in the water. So we somehow Teddy dies. Whether he can be resurrected again, we'll see. But yeah. So eventually he dies. Who knows how that's gonna happen?
But episode 3 to me moves everything forward character wise. Why didn't you like episode 3?
I just thought it was a little chaotic, and I guess I was a little frustrated that the plot was forced so quickly. Like Charlotte just happens to run into the army that's going to attack Dolores. Like the army just happens to get blown up by all of the nitro. Bernard and Abernathy just happened to get captured and brought to Dolores. It's just a lot of really big coincidences. I just didn't feel like these characters should all be running into each other so quickly. Then again, we had Dolores happen to run into Maeve in episode. Is that in episode 1?
I think it was episode. I think that was the
episode 2.
I think so.
Yeah, it was episode 2. Yeah, I'm not so into like coincidences, I guess.
Really?
Nah, I guess I don't like them as much. I don't like them that much. I understand why they do it because they want to have like the characters together on screen, but I guess I thought it was kind of interesting Bernard traveling with Charlotte and that dynamic, and I kind of wanted more of that dynamic to see where it went, and it ended quite quickly. So I like these little I like the one-on-one kind of character stuff, just to see how they interact. I don't like the big groups of people. Like, I think now Maeve's posse is way too crowded, right? You've got like 6 major characters, like all traveling together.
And we also end with Maeve, where they get to Shogun World, and that's a thing now.
Yes,
I'm just really curious as to what's going to happen. So the Man in Black, he can't get his army. Okay, fine. So Maeve's going to get her army, and like I just have no idea where her story is going, and I'm kind of curious, but at the same time I'm not. I just
Well, I imagine that she's going to take over. I'm guessing that she's going to take over Shogun World, and then she'll have a samurai army, right? And then
so
she can do her thing.
But what is her thing?
Right?
She's looking for her daughter, right?
Well, yeah, that's the weird thing, right? She should be looking for her daughter, so she has the ability to control other hosts, or except for Ghost Nation. So it should be pretty easy for her to just grab this army and go try to find her daughter. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens.
Episode 4, we finally get the culmination of what I've been thinking about since season 1. This is something I expected since season 1, that they're some higher up level. Because for me, in season 1, I thought 2 things were going to happen. 1, these hosts are a great way to extend someone's life. They can put someone's brain and heart or whatever in there.
Yeah.
And 2, military purposes. So one of those is going down. We see that James Delos struck a deal with William to keep his conscience going. I guess his mind.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, rejecting the host's body.
Yes.
I really like that. I really liked how it's imperfect, because his mind is rejecting this as being like reality.
It was certainly very creepy and creative. How they portrayed the whole thing. It's funny because the discussion was where, I mean, a lot of people were wondering, because like, if you had this technology, you'd kind of expect it to be used for medical purposes. A lot of people were thinking that it was going to go the way of Futureworld. The Westworld sequel has hosts being used to replace world leaders.
Right.
Which is certainly, something that would be done if you had this technology as well. So maybe they're going to try to do all of these things. I mean, if Dolores is talking about taking over the world, she can do it with this technology. If she's able to, I guess, she's killed off the Delos board. She can replace the Delos board and with hosts.
Well, what I was thinking is maybe like the world leaders are pouring money into this to try to live longer and rule longer. I mean, if this was a thing years ago, some of the world leaders that are assholes probably would have used this technology. I'm sure like Kim Jong-un would have used it, maybe Hitler, Stalin, Mao.
Live longer.
We don't know live longer, of course. We don't know what's going on in the outside world in terms of this Westworld, but.
Yeah,
I'm assuming
that's the real interesting thing, is we do know nothing about the outside world.
It could be post-apocalyptic in some way, or I don't know, maybe everybody. Because one of the things I really enjoy about Looper and as well as Firefly is that in the future, according to them, like China, like really becomes big, and everybody either starts learning Chinese or using Chinese currency.
Yeah. There's only 2 languages. The cultures are kind of blended in Firefly.
So maybe it's something like that. But I don't know. I really like where this is going with the whole thing, because my thoughts is maybe Bernard, because he takes that thing in this flashback, he takes that little ball. I'm assuming it's someone's consciousness.
Yeah. Right, like we've got like maybe a top 5 possibilities on who that consciousness is.
My money's on Ford.
So Ford, I think there's also discussion of Arnold, but could we have copied Arnold's brain before he died? I mean, he blew his brains out. Like, is it too late to make it Arnold?
Yeah, I think it's too late to make it Arnold.
It would be clever. It would be clever though, in that. So first season, the whole trick was, okay, we have all these, we're introduced to Bernard, and we have all these scenes with Arnold, and we think it's Bernard, and then at the end we find out that Bernard and Arnold are 2 different people. It'd be funny as if they do it again, right? Like, Bernard wakes up on that beach. What if that's not Bernard? What if that's actually Arnold?
Oh, that's good.
What if that's Arnold's mind? Right. Like that would be very clever to do that again. Because it's definitely like future, like Bernard on the Strand timeline is definitely acting funny. Like, he doesn't seem as injured. He didn't need his glasses. Like, his glasses washed away and he didn't get them. Like, why doesn't he need glasses? Does he have a new body? We kind of know from the preview that there's multiple Bernard bodies. So there might be multiple Bernards running around. And they might be like sharing their information through. They introduced this concept of a mesh net, that the hosts actually telepathically communicate with each other, so that so maybe Bernard syncs with his other Bernards. So one thing in my videos that I like was making fun of season one a lot. So season one makes a lot of errors when it comes to with scenes, that editing, and people's outfits. Like they do it a lot.
This is something you've noticed. I never noticed shit like this. This is the stuff you notice.
No, because you wouldn't, but it like a normal person wouldn't. But it's funny to like go back and rewatch it because I went back and I was trying to figure out like how much time had passed, and I was like, well, one way we can figure out time passing is like if somebody has changed their clothes. But the problem is that like they'll go back to another outfit and like they'll swap between different outfits, and I was like, oh man, they weren't paying attention to clothing. They're definitely trying harder this season with clothing to make sure that it's consistent. But so one of the big jokes was, like Bernard is like all over the map. In fact, in one episode, he wears 6 different outfits in one day. and so some people are like, oh, well, if there's multiple Bernards, this fixes that whole problem,
So you think they're cleverly trying to put multiple nards in multiple places to do, I guess, one giant thing?
No, I mean to try to like retroactively fix it. No, I mean the problem is that like Elsie wears two or three outfits a day. Teresa will wear 2 or 3 outfits a day, or switch back and forth.
Speaking of Elsie, she's back. How do you feel about that?
She's back. I hope there's more to the story because it doesn't really make sense that someone's chained to a wall for a week.
Was she chained to a wall for a week? Was it a week?
Yeah, it's a week.
He gave her protein bars in a bucket. She's fine.
Protein bars in a bucket, right. She looks great. Her makeup's fine. Her hair looked fantastic.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bitch about the hair because I was like, damn, her hair looks fucking great. What the fuck? I knew that was coming.
Her hair looks better than before she was kidnapped.
I know.
Like Bernard kidnapped her, chained her to the wall, washed her hair, blow dry, gave her a trim, blow dry.
I noticed that too. I started to notice shit like that.
I mean, the hope is like a lot of people like the hope is that she's not actually been chained to the wall for a week, but I mean, you need water, right?
I don't know. She had the bucket. Whatever. Preston, let's not delve into this because then it's gonna bug me. Because I did like episode 4. So far, it's my favorite episode. Right. We all see the Men in Black go back to that Lawrence's town, and instead of slaughtering everybody and scalping them, he's actually saved the town.
Yes. Now, if you notice, the Man in Black is actually doing the reverse journey from last season. If you remember, like last season, if you remember, the journey is Sweetwater, Dolores's ranch, Abernathy Ranch, the campsite, Las Mudas, Pariah, and then onto Escalante, right? And so now they're going in reverse. They start at Escalante, and then he goes to Pariah, and now he's at Las Mudas. So he's
I didn't notice that. Good catch.
Yeah, so last season they headed outward towards the edge of the park, and now he's heading inward. Notice that there's been no scenes in Sweetwater in the modern timeline. I mean, there's one quick scene of like Westworld waking up and Sweetwater being in chaos, but like none of the main characters have been in Sweetwater this season.
I was going to ask you that
because they're
when the Men in Black is going by like those guys working on the railroad using were those androids or people they were like pinning down on the tracks?
Well, we only know this because Lisa Joy did an Ask Me Anything, and somebody asked that question of what the hell was up with that scene, because the scene's kind of
Lisa
random.
Joy is the director of the episode?
Yeah. And she did a fantastic job. It's her directorial debut, and the episode is directed beautifully. She has a real talent for that. But she said that they were a mix of hosts and humans who had mistreated the workers and are being punished. but at the same time, I'm like, when would they have the opportunity to mistreat those workers? Like, I could see like a couple overseers, but there's like women in like dresses.
Right.
Like, who are these women, and why were they mistreating Chinese railroad workers? I don't. Or maybe there's a previous loop. Maybe they're remembering their previous loops, and somehow these women hurt them on previous loops or something. But it's really weird. And why are they putting people under railroad tracks?
That was just like a random scene, and that reminds me, like, if there are humans in there, I guess they're the humans the Ghost Nation people didn't capture, because apparently Ghost Nation, they're an anomaly in the fucking park, because everybody's going crazy, but Ghost Nation, I guess, is rounding people up and protecting them, freeing them?
Yeah, it must be some sort of safety procedure or something to, and who knows who put it in. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Ford put it in.
Speaking of Ford, like, the Man in Black keeps saying Ford's game. Is this all Ford's game? Like, what is this? What is the purpose in freeing all the hosts and unlocking all restraints?
It's really tough. I mean, one thing that's... So, I mean, there's a bit of a retcon in the sense that, like, first season was like, okay, we're all in program loops, and now he says it's like a new narrative, but it's a narrative, he says, by choice, meaning everybody's free. But now that we're actually in it, it doesn't seem like people are that free. That the narrative it is more of the Wyatt storyline, you know, of her trying to, you know, be this dictator that you know, the Wyatt that Teddy hates, you know. So that it's we seem to see like the Wyatt storyline playing out rather than something new. But yeah, it's Ford's game. I mean, that's the thing, is do we mean like his game for the man in black to find the door? Or do we mean the Wyatt storyline for Dolores to lead the hosts to freedom? Are they all the same? But how can they be given free will if it's Ford's storyline? You know, there's a bit of this, you know, dichotomy here. So I don't know.
Show's getting really good. And what else happens? So the Man in Black becomes a nice guy. He helps out Lawrence's place. William.
But then he does say at the end that he wasn't a nice guy. That's like,
that's what they're all supposed to say.
I guess.
That's what they're always supposed to say. All the anti-heroes are supposed to say, I'm not really being the hero here, I'm just doing what I want to do. Like, whatever, bastard. So the whole James Delos, young William thing was interesting. I really love that part of it. I also really like the whole Bernard thing, like how he's moving in and out.
Yeah.
He's not really there right now. I love Bernard.
Yeah, and like I say, I'm really like waiting for what scene is out of order. Because right now things don't seem that out of order, but they keep hinting that like something is there's going to be some sort of twist.
It's really getting good. See, episode 4 is where it starts. Episode 3 and 4 is where it starts really getting good for me.
So did you catch how like, so you haven't been like I've been stopping like the episodes and like reading all of the different panels that appear. Which is why, like, I know, like, the Carl Strand timeline is, like, well, they speak that one, but that's, like, 2 weeks in the future from the incident. But you also, like, if you pay attention to one of the panels, it says that James Delos has been in there 2 weeks. The 149th version of James Delos was in there 2 weeks. And, of course, the Man in Black visits him and says, like, you know, the 149th version of James Delos. So we know that the scene between the Man in Black and James Delos happened 2 weeks before the incident. Or not even 2 weeks before the incident, 2 weeks before Elsie and Bernard find him. You know. And so that means all of Westworld season 1 and 2 have taken place in 14 days. Which is kind of interesting. It kind of works out. I mean, not well, but it kind of works out.
I love you, man.
It's
I love
really
you, man.
rushed.
You're one of the very few people who actually like pays attention and does that shit. Like, I'm just so enthralled in the whole story and what's happening. I'm not really pausing every 2 seconds, but I love you, man. You're fucking great.
But that's, I mean, it's funny to think about, though, that, like, he had his interview with James Delos. He says, okay, he leaves that room, he shaves, he goes into Westworld, and he like goes and he rapes Dolores. Like that all happened on the same day. Like the first episode of
Does
Westworld.
he rape Dolores? I thought he just scalps her.
We have no idea what goes on in that barn. I thought the implication was that she's
episode 1, that was the implication. Then later on we see like what really happens, and he takes out his knife. So I'm assuming he scalped her.
Oh, like he was looking for a maze underneath her scalp.
But episode 4 I really like. I thought it was great. I thought it was really just the ending of it with Bernard and the fucking whole thing. It's just, I don't know.
Now there's the question. A lot of people are questioning whether or not James Delos was stable. Or that, it actually, the screen said he was at 80% degradation. But the question is, how many versions, how far are they away from mastering that technology? Like if James Delos 149 is able to make it that long, would James Delos 150 make it? Would it be James Delos 153? Because clearly they're having that ball that, and the idea that somebody else is going to get that body. And is that body going to be stable, or are they going to degrade?
Well, my question is, okay, so the mind is in that little ball, right?
Somebody's mind, yeah.
Okay. So obviously they put James Delos' mind in a little ball and put it in the android, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, or at least uploaded like what they have, like all the data and everything else into an android. My thought is this: over time, does the mind degrade?
The Man in Black said that the mind was rejecting itself.
Mm-hmm.
The mind was rejecting the mind.
But I wonder, like, does the mind also reject the host body because it knows it's not real? It knows.
Well,
it's not
no. He said at first they thought the mind was rejecting the body.
That's right.
The body was rejecting the mind, but it's really the mind rejecting itself. The mind rejected the mind. So the body, there's no problem. They've perfected the bodies. They haven't perfected the minds.
So do you think that one? Because Bernard puts it in his pocket, and I thought they were gonna do that one thing where in the flashback he puts it in his pocket, and back in the normal timeline he's gonna put his hand in his pocket and be like, "It's still here." I thought they were gonna do that one thing, but they didn't do it. Do you think it's Ford though? Like, who do you think the possibilities are? It's either Ford or Arnold.
Okay, I think the possibilities are Ford, Arnold, and then there's the lesser possibilities. Another James Delos, Logan. A copy of William.
Okay.
Right, then you'd have like 2 Williams, which would be weird. You could have William meet William. And other than that, then maybe Juliet. I mean, that's the thing, is we're running out of human characters, right?
Yeah.
So, like, Teresa. I mean, it could be Teresa, Juliet, Logan, another William, Arnold, Ford, and that's pretty much right. Or James Delos, right? So,
well, I think James Delos is done. I think he's done. He's over with. Logan, I don't think is big enough of a character to really come back. So it's either Arnold or Ford, and maybe, just maybe, it's Ford coming back in Bernard's body. That's why he didn't need glasses.
Well, it does seem to be a new body, a body that doesn't need glasses. Yeah, but can he do it? Who can do a convincing Anthony Hopkins impression?
That's true. Plus, I hope it's Anthony Hopkins in another body, maybe a younger Anthony Hopkins body, because we've seen him do young Ford. So,
yeah, I mean, I hope it's not Ford, because Ford kind of had a good ending, where he says, "Oh, he's just going to become music," So it's a little weird for him to be like, just kidding. My consciousness was put into a ball."
And the final thing that happened in the episode was I thought it was a big fucking twist, was that woman turns out to be the Man in Black's daughter. I thought it was a big twist. I was like, what? Oh, that was great. I even messaged you on Facebook about it. Like, what? Oh, that was great. But you figured it out. Fuck you. I didn't figure it out.
Yeah, well, it's just because, like I said, there's not that many characters, and it's like we've been honestly shown. This is like people, it's like R plus L equals J, right? Like, you know, like there's one person in Game of Thrones who doesn't know who their parents are, and there's one mystery baby. Like, that's the connection. Mm-hmm. Like, well, we have one character who's young that has been introduced, and that's Emily. And it turns out it's Emily, you know.
So you liked episode 4?
Yeah, no, episode 4
my favorite
was
so
really
far.
strong. I think it was my favorite as well. Just because it was so creepy and different, and we had so many twists, and I mean, it was nice finding out what happened to Stubbs and finding out what happened to Elsie, having answers, but then having more mysteries, you know. Mm-hmm. That's what you want. You don't want a mystery to linger too long, because that becomes, you know, aggravating, but you don't want all the mysteries like told. So it's like that perfect balance of like answering some and presenting new ones. So, and it was really well directed, and it was just a interesting, creepy episode. And man, like, I really hope we see a lot more of Logan, and I want to see old Logan. I want to see like I don't like hearing about Logan dying off screen. Like, you know, like if you're gonna kill Logan, I want to see fucking Logan die, okay?
I actually wanted to ask you something in regards to Logan, because I think we'll have to save this for the next episode, but because I think if like we went into Westworld, I would be very much like Logan, but I don't think you would be Logan. I think you would be a lot like young William and never make the transition from, like, you know, innocent guy to like douchebag. You would still be innocent guy by the time you left.
No, if I went into Westworld,
no, don't tell us. We'll have to save this for the next episode, because I've kept you up way too long, and this is why your wife hates me. Because what time is it there for you? It's hold on, I know.
It's 11:45.
Jesus fucking Christ! I always keep you way too long. But you want to just wrap this up here?
All right, sounds good.
We went on way too long, guys. Thank you so much for watching our first episode of our Westworld miniseries podcast. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes. And, you know, consider checking us out on those. We're also on Google Play as well, and Podbean, whatever the fuck that is. Preston, do you have anything else you want to promote that you have coming up for Game of Thrones or your channel in general?
No, just working on kind of the same videos that you to expect, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, prepping for winter, what you're missing, Night's Watch. I will have a video of working on a video of my trip to Iceland, so we'll see how we'll see all that soon.
I want to see that. But yeah, guys, once again, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We'll see you again next time for episodes 5, 6, and 7, and then 8, 9, and 10. Once again, thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.